really wish you'd give me a countdown. Hi, everyone! Welcome to another episode of the Comic Book Club. I am Super2. Joining me today is Robert Emmett.
Ho, 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 motherfuckers.
And Terry.
Yeah, hi.
Hi. So today we are here to review Klaus, the epic holiday volume by Grant Morrison and Dan Mora. This is the story of how Santa began, and it is an instant Christmas classic, in my opinion. We're reviewing this 4 days after Christmas, so all in all, it could have been better, could have been worse. So let's talk experience with this. I've done a review of it on Geeky Gentleman before. Really do enjoy it personally, and I waited till the volume was out to read it. How about you, Robert?
I read this every Christmas, ever since I got it last year. So not much of a great tradition. But I try to read this every Christmas, at least in the build-up to Christmas. And I agree, this is an instant Christmas classic. I lent my copy. I didn't think I was going to get to read it this year for Christmas because I had a friend who ordered it in. It didn't arrive before Christmas, so I lent him my copy. Didn't know he was going to finish it in time for me to read it myself at Christmas time. And he said it was the highlight of his Christmas.
Oh, wow.
Which is odd, because this is his first Christmas as a dad.
Ouch.
Second Christmas as a dad. Second Christmas as a dad, but still.
Oh, man. And how about you, Terry?
Yeah, so I've heard a lot about this book for, I guess, the past year, just in passing. And I heard somebody review it on a podcast just a few days ago. Out of the Fridge podcast. It's a pretty good one. Yeah, and then I guess you did something about it. I don't remember what it was now. And then yeah, so then I read it for the first time. Was it maybe in the past few days? It's each issue 69p on Amazon and Comixology, so it's pretty cheap.
Okay.
And yeah, so I liked it, but it didn't like blow me away, and I forgot it was Grant Morrison until like 10 minutes ago when I looked at the issues and it said his name at the front, and I was like, oh yeah, that's him, because it didn't seem like a Grant Morrison book at all. That's not like a positive or negative. That's just a observation. Oh wait, no, sorry. There is one part that was very well. No, that was a little bit Grant Morrison-y. Maybe I'll talk about that later, but otherwise, to me, it was just like an okay thing. I don't really love Christmas. Maybe I'm more of a Krampus guy than a Christmas guy. But it was okay. It wasn't terrible, but I liked it. Yeah.
See, and that to me cracks me up because I think this is probably the most Grant Morrison I've seen in a while. It's got the big moment that perfectly defines the character. It's got the grand cosmic scale. It's got just this, villain that's the perfect antithesis of the hero. Just all these elements built in. It's like all of Morrison's favorite tricks. He really likes those tricks. And I guess if you're more of a Krampus guy, he's here. It's awesome. It's great. I love it. I love Krampus in this. This is probably my favorite version of Krampus.
His design is really cool, and he seems very cold and I don't know. I guess he's pretty good.
Children for sack and for supper. I don't know. I really like this. This is the coolest idea ever of just let's make Santa Claus badass, and it totally fucking works.
Yeah, I just want to say it is like a lifelong dream of mine to watch like a Lord of the Rings type story about like the origin of Santa Claus. But I wouldn't have it like this. This is more of like a superhero-y type thing. I wanted like a proper high fantasy Lord of the Rings, like Santa is like Gandalf and stuff like that. That's what I wanted. So this is like a happy alternative until I can get that dream version.
All right. Oh, well, I mean, I guess I can't convert you, but man, I really dig this. I also really like the presentation of the trade. I think that does quite a bit for it because it's got this golden trim on the pages, and
Oh my
it
god.
feels like a Christmas book. Yeah. You see that when it just feels like a Christmas book when you get the hardcover. It's that proper thing. I love how short it is. It only 7 issues, and they all read really quick. You can read this on Christmas Day as just like a thing. Like I know a lot of families will do like the tradition of reading A Christmas Carol, or that was a thing. This can kind of go into that line. I remember my first Christmas with this, I'd already read it, and I was telling Haley how good I thought it was. And just on a whim, we were going over to my mom's that year. I brought it with, and I got my mom to read all 7 issues for us. It was really, really cool. So it kind of perfectly works in that way, and I really do recommend it as that.
Just as you were talking about the presentation of it, and I agree. I think this is without a doubt the best looking book I own, which was of course the influence as to why it was the one that I got Morrison to sign last month.
Oh wow.
Nice.
Gorgeous. But I'm sorry to name drop, but I'm sorry, I love this book really much. Whenever I took this up to families, I had it wrapped in bubble wrap and in a suitcase that's like hardwood. So like I did not want to. So I was like, nope, my baby is not getting damaged remotely at all. I do have one problem with the presentation. I have literally one thing that I think could be improved upon this.
Okay.
If it has bookmark ribbons.
Oh yes. Yeah, that would be cool.
That would be classy as
Yeah.
And I've toyed with the idea of like trying to like do it myself and put one in the spine, but every time I think about doing it, I'm like, nope, I'll glue the pages together. Like so, I avoid it. But
maybe there's a service, someone who can do it for you, like a special shop, a special bookshop.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I don't trust anyone with this. I only gave it to my friend because I made him swear on the life of his child that he would not. Dad couldn't do that, but yeah, I'm not a monster.
Oh man.
It's a book. It's a book. I can get another one and just sort of like hunt Grant down to get the replacement signed. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm sure. So anyway, I do really enjoy this. But let's go ahead and get into talking about the story and stuff. So the premise here is something that's again very Morrison-esque, where it's kind of the ultimate stakes to birth the hero. He comes into this town that's called Grimsvig, and Joy is banned there. And these are all just like, of course, that's where Santa comes from, is from a place where joy is not allowed to happen and he has to bring it. And it's just all those little touches like that throughout the story that I really like. And so Grant kind of portrays Santa here as this, this rebellious hero, which just kind of makes it inherently more badass. Which is really cool, and Dan Mora just draws him like so freaking scruffy and buff and shit. It's awesome.
Does he not remind you a bit of the guy who played like the main dwarf in The Hobbit? Like that's who I'm like. That's who I'm casting in my head.
Oh my god! Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I love the levels to which this town is like so incredibly bleak in that first issue. Like you get this image of a wishing well, and there's a sign that says it is forbidden to wish. And those are kind of the stakes that you're dealing with. Like you get all this imagery of like, oh, toys are banned and we beat the shit out of outsiders and all this stuff. There's like all kinds of awful to this, and it just gives it proper stakes. I just really like that. I think it's really, really cool how that all kind of builds together as we begin to create the mythos, and we get the. Again, I don't know how you didn't know it was Morrison when aliens from the woods create Santa Claus.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm curious. I'm curious, Ian, because like this place, Grimsvig it's forbidden to wish, it's forbidden hope. Joy is outlawed, toys are outlawed. Is that what Indiana is like under Pence?
Yes.
Oh.
I also really love Dan Mora's art in this because he gives us some just beautiful imagery. Like, this shit is absolutely insane to look at. And then I think it's really cool how it all kind of comes together. And you get this conclusion where the first issue ends with Santa Claus creating all the toys. I think that's really, really cool. How that all kind of comes together, and it just kind of builds from there. It's very, very much in line with Morrison's style of just the first issue kind of sets us where we're going to go with the whole series.
It's just getting into what Terry was saying about it being more of a superhero thing. The obvious sort of influence for like Santa's outlook, and definitely is he's very much a Superman figure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But and like whenever we get to talking about the end, and there's a panel obviously that I think we should show because it's comics don't do subtle. But I think like
around the earth
in the earlier parts, before he gets any like real powers and stuff like that, he's more of a Batman kind of character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like probably
transition.
Except a Batman who's got a Superman mentality. So he Nightwing, basically.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yes.
You know, he's a and like the symbol, like that's on the trade as well. The symbol for joy, which he graffitied over the town, was kind of like his version of the bat symbol and stuff. It's like call him Mike Pence Snape guy.
Oh, I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Snape.
Snape.
Mike Pence Snape guy is like you mentioned that Grant Morrison likes to do his of the hero, and were you talking about you were talking about Krampus, I think, whenever you mentioned that, were you?
Generally Krampus, but yeah, the leader of the town is kind of like the human side. It's hard because they're so interconnected as characters for villains, right? It is a dual villain thing, but like they're feeding off of each other.
Yeah.
Magnus is the guy's name.
Good name.
So you could say that like Magnus, like the antithesis of Klaus as a human and as a person, and Krampus is the antithesis of what Klaus becomes as an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know.
I think that's fair.
Oh, you know, I just love gushing over this.
Mm-hmm.
Can I skip ahead a little bit to a later part of the book?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the end of well, I guess this ties into some earlier stuff. So the end of issue 6 is when he becomes, I guess, Santa Claus or whatever.
We have a word for it.
Yeah, I can't remember. Somebody does call him Father Klaus, so that was cool. Like a Father Christmas type thing. But yeah, so anyway, the end of issue 6, I just wanted to say I did like when these alien spirit creatures started to look more like fifth-dimensional beings or something like that, because what, like a couple of them are like tesseracts and some are like these weird shapes with loads of sides,
Yeah.
and then when he does get the what's it called, the sleigh, I did like the fact that it looked very alien, like it wasn't just like magical, and it was
Yeah.
I think Krampus says when he touches it, it kind of goes like pixelated or something, and he says, and he starts using some weird like sci-fi, like he says it's a bright machine from the eight-cornered orb.
The elders of my
um
species, my kind, and stuff.
yeah,
Yep.
and he talks about thought metals. That's definitely, I guess, Morrison stuff. And yeah, it just I was really interested in that, because the idea that I don't think they were called Christmas spirits, but was it, spirits of the forest or something like that. I like the idea that this whole spirit of Christmas thing is some sort of higher cosmic thing that drives I don't know, like Christmas spirit or whatever cheer that Klaus is trying to spread across the realms. That was a cool idea. So it's like a universal thing that we need. Oh, okay. Just one more thing I'll say is I watched this movie on Netflix recently. It was a really not a great movie, but it was a Christmas. It was Father something Christmas. It was like a, what's his name? Not Russell Crowe. The guy who plays Ego in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. What's
Kurt
his name?
Russell.
Kurt Russell, yeah, that's it. He is Santa Claus in the film, and he does have a line talking about how Christmas spirit is much more important than just like on the surface level what you would think. So I was thinking, okay, if you apply that idea kind of literally to like reality, then maybe they would. I don't know. It was tying things together for me in my head, thinking maybe these feelings and emotions of having happy kids and stuff like that does lead to a more well constructed physical reality somehow. Anyway, that was interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about it in regards to the volumes that come after this, because
Really?
yes,
I
so
didn't read those.
you don't have
Okay.
to, but like,
Not read that one.
okay, it's
do I
not
need to
not
duck
huge
out?
spoilers.
Oh
It's
no,
not huge
but
spoilers. I'm just like the other stories begin to kind of put an emphasis on the grander cosmic importance of
Oh my
Christmas
god!
spirit, I guess you'd call it. This is the third special they did, Klaus and the Crying Snowman, and this is about like the gods that brought on Ragnarok coming back, and
Oh
like
my god!
tried to, yeah. There's all kind of like crazy cosmic mythical stuff going on, and
Wow,
like
Morrison.
the last one is the town of Xmasville or something like that, and that's all about like aliens from another dimension coming in and trying to destroy trying to grant a corporation ownership of the concept of Xmas, and just there's all kinds of like crazy stuff in it, and it's so Morrison and like the way that he kind of takes on the capitalism side of the whole Christmas spirit is it's pretty damn entertaining.
You should have said that in the beginning. Yeah, that's amazing, actually. So I feel like Morrison was building up to all of that weird nonsense then. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So like the idea that Christmas joy or whatever is incredibly important is on like a cosmic scale is pretty emphasized throughout the rest of the specials they've released so far. For those that don't know, they release one special every year since the first volume has come out.
Is it fair to say that Morrison is based? Is it fair to say
Morrison has based these. Oh, we lost Rob. That sucks. Rob, are you with us? Robert, can you hear me? Oh, he is popping in and out of existence here. Don't you love live shows? I thought it was going to be me popping in and out of existence. My internet's been such a pain lately. It's not fair, I tell you. It's just not fair. Okay. This is getting kind of annoying. Well, Terry, how about you? What else have you got to say about this? You muted your mic, man. We can't hear you. Okay, now you're coming in now. Is it me that's the problem? Okay, now you're good. Now you're good.
Okay. Has he frozen, Robert?
Yeah, he's frozen. We'll just move on. Okay. He'll come back hopefully.
Okay. As soon as he was frozen, my Bluetooth cut out. So I had problems at the same time. Anyway, just honestly, I'll say the last thing you were saying, explaining those other books, has made me more interested in reading those now, and they're also quite cheap on Amazon. I think they're like £5. So I might try one out, and I think about getting the rest. There's preview pages.
Yeah, I haven't read the first one, which is Klaus and the Witch of Winter. Though I do think like the other two are. I used to have more problems with the second one than I did. I feel like it's because when I read the second one, it had been a long time since I read this, so it didn't play as well.
Sorry, which one is the second one?
That would be Klaus in the town of Xmasville.
Town of Xmas and the crisis in Xmasville.
Yeah, that'd be it. That's it. That's it.
Is this set in modern day? These are the images I'm looking at.
These kind of jump around in time. The crisis in Xmasville is set in the 80s. The crying snowman is pretty all over the place. It doesn't really like give you a direct sense of time, I don't think. And I'm not sure when Klaus and the Witch of Winter is set, because I haven't had a chance to read that one.
Klaus and the Witch of Winter, I think, is a little bit more contemporary, because there's like, he talks about how, this is a phone. I must have been gone for decades. So it's, and the guy shows him a fairly modern looking smartphone. Which, by the way, we need to get one that's that lunar civil war, okay? Because they keep dropping hints about that, and that sounds like the coolest thing.
Yeah, I guess this book gets pretty Morrison, pretty cosmic. Rob, what were you going to say before you cut out?
Yeah, sorry about that. Do you think so? The sort of like these fifth-dimensional Yule-time spirit alien things. Do you think it's fair to say that Morrison is based, sort of the imagery and stuff I don't know how much of the imagery is him talking to Mora about like what he's envisioning in his head versus just Mora throwing it out there on the page. But I imagine Morrison had some pointers about it, because it does sound a lot like what Morrison describes as happening when he was when he had his experience in Kathmandu. I was abducted by aliens in 1994 because I went to Kathmandu in 1994 to get abducted by aliens.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
It sounds a lot like that stuff.
I don't know. It's really hard to tell. Anytime Morrison's having characters go on like crazy trips, I never really know how much of it he's trying to base off of his own experiences and how much of it he's just playing around with the idea of making the characters trip balls. So I'm not sure how much of it was like description from Morrison or how much of it was just imagination from Mora and how much of it was just Mora knowing, okay, I'm working with Grant Morrison. So when he says winter spirit, he truly means an alien. So I'm just going to draw an alien spirit.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting though. I never would have thought Santa Claus being created by aliens is a concept that I'd be so down for, but I'm really down for this concept.
I mean, like,
I don't think it doesn't sound like aliens. I'm not the expert. I haven't read the other books, but from this book, from issue 6, they just seem like interdimensional higher beings rather
Mhm.
than people from another planet. So it's like it's beyond our comprehension. It's another dimension of existence.
I think that's fair. I'm just using aliens as shorthand at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I definitely see
Oh,
where you're coming from,
wow.
though. What's up?
Guys, I was just flicking through the pages, not really paying attention. But the
Yeah.
toy that the kid has here, you know, the oh God, what's his name?
The
Uh,
God.
Jonas. The toy that Jonas has in this scene at the start of issue 5, like
It's the
that's Krampus.
Krampus. Yeah.
I didn't notice that before.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a little they call him like the weird bug man scarecrow thing, and then it's like it's got the horns, it's totally the Krampus. It's
But that's weird
foreshadowing.
because like didn't Klaus make that for him?
Yeah, I mean it's just like it's a weird little thing, but it looks exactly like the Krampus because that's called foreshadowing.
Oh
Um
wow.
yeah. Yeah. It's a cool one.
No, I'm just no, I'm just questioning the logic of Santa making a toy for a child. I was like, hey, this thing's gonna effing eat you.
yeah.
He doesn't know. He just made a weird looking Bugman thing. He was tripping balls
Fair
at the
enough.
time.
Maybe he saw it. Maybe he saw like a vision of Krampus whenever he was like, you know, tripping balls and just has like glimpses into the future, like breaking through the barrier of space time and stuff like that. Maybe I don't know. It's Morrison. That's a viable explanation.
Um, could I get your opinion on I think her name was Dagmar, and I guess you said the boy's name is Jonas. Like I think one of the issues it had her telling stories with him, or teaching him
How
how
to
to play,
play.
or yeah. That was kind of like a standout scene for me because it was quite I guess unexpected, I suppose, because I guess we've seen troubled kids like him before, and it was nice seeing her like trying to connect with him and trying to make him like a real child. I don't know. I just wanted to think what you thought about that, but also about, is her name Dagmar? What you thought about her in general, because I was surprised at the end to see that as time was going forward, he continued to meet her, I guess, every year. But I thought she was going to be like Mrs. Claus, but she died, so I guess not, unless they bring her back somehow. So, what's your thoughts on the boy and Dagmar, if that's her name?
Yeah, so I really love that scene. I think that's probably the most emotional scene in the book, because it's so human and so perfect, and it kind of encapsulates the idea of childhood wonder and joy, and just the freedom of play at that point. So I really, really love that scene as the mother teaching it. I also love how she takes such a complete 180 once she realizes who Klaus is and that he's alive. And that's just really, really cool. So I do really, really like that scene. It's probably one of the best scenes in the book. And what's super interesting about it is that's the scene that saves that kid. Like he's still got problems. He's still got stuff he has to work through, but that's the scene that takes him from being a little monster who's ungrateful for anything, little spoiled brat, and makes him into an actual child again. And
because
the
whole sort of thing is it's not about, he gets all these extravagant gifts, and he's always ungrateful, no matter how grand the gift is. He's always ungrateful, and the reason he's ungrateful is because he doesn't know how to play, because no one's ever shown him how to play, because he's just he's not his father's just sort of locked him away. He has no one. His mother is so up until Klaus shows up, she's so sort of like wrapped up in this sort of apathy that she doesn't, that she neglects her child. And it's not until a reminder of her own childhood comes back that she's able to sort of like reclaim a bit of that and save her kid, basically.
Yep.
It is really it's such like a good commentary on the materialistic aspect of Christmas without getting into this whole sort of without being about sort of like, you know, the evils of consumerism and stuff like that, and you know, the in Christmas.
That comes later.
That comes later, but for this, it's more focused on the aspect of the core of Christmas or Yuletime is family.
Mm-hmm.
That is more important than anything you'll get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did really like that. So that scene it goes straight to the heart of the book. Also like the origin stuff we get for Klaus. You know, that we get an origin within the origin story is pretty funny. But like, I like Morrison always returning things, always bringing things back to their source, and so we get the idea that in that same issue, I believe, or it's right around that same issue, where Klaus was a child whose mother froze to death in the cold, and yet somehow he survived. It's like he was meant to survive that day when everything should have been against him. And it's just such a freaky image too, of like his mother didn't just freeze to death. She's literally encased in ice. She looks like she got blasted by Mr. Freeze or something. And yet she's got him in her arms, and that's how he's able to survive. And then we get like the origin of Lily, how he got his fucking dire wolf, which is pretty damn cool. So there's stuff like that. It's just really cool in that issue too, and it gives you kind of even more of a peer than you thought you were gonna get, which is neat.
It's also like really cool that like the cool. It's cool that the issue that reveals Klaus's origin, that his mother did die trying to save him from the cold, and that she froze to death, is the same. It's chapter 4. It's the same issue where Dagmar is metaphorically thawed out.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about it, she's been cold all this time, and now she's been thawed out by Klaus revealing that he didn't actually kill her father, and that he's alive, and all this stuff. And that's when she is thawed out, and she saves her son. Mm-hmm. So the entire chapter is about mothers saving their sons.
That's a real good way to look at it. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I only just pieced it together there. Now I didn't realize it was because I'm not in the habit of looking at this as chapters as so much as just one long thing. But then I just was noticing it this time around. So, yay!
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry, can I just ask a quick question? So, Crisis in Christmasville and Witch of Winter, are those like graphic novel-sized stories, or are they single issues?
They're extra-sized single issues. I have the Crying Snowman here, and so like it's a decent thickness, but it's like kind of 2 issues in one, I guess I'd call it.
Okay, because it's that's 69 pence on Amazon and Comixology as well, so I might get that after all. Okay.
Yeah. As Robert was saying, the second volume of Klaus is now out, and that collects the first 2 stories, and that's a little too little for me. I think I'm gonna hold off and see if they ever end up collecting a 3rd volume that's like got maybe the first 4 issues in it or something at that point.
Yeah.
I just think 2 issues is maybe a little too short, as good as the presentation is of the trade.
I may have jumped the gun in a moment of Yuletime cheer.
That's okay. You're just a dirty consumerist.
Naturally.
Yeah. So with all the Christmassy weirdness in this, is it? I don't know where I was going with that. Is it fair to say that this is kind of the ultimate Santa story? Because like I've seen Santa's origin done on film a number of times and other sources, and it's never it's never very good. It's never very clever. It's usually kind of just, okay, he was an old guy who delivered toys, and then he like died, and then they
Yeah.
just made him Santa, and he got to do that for the rest of his life.
Well,
I really like how this fleshes out the origin and gives it like a real mythos to it and everything.
I can answer that question in just a single 2-page spread. Dire wolves pull in the sleigh.
Yeah, that's the
Like, of course, it's
best image in the
the
book.
best Santa thing ever.
Yeah.
The only Santa that's even holds a candle to Klaus is the Futurama Santa. Which, by the way, that's the crossover. That would be epic fight.
Oh man.
I disagree, by the way, that it's the like definitive Santa origin story.
What is your definitive Santa origin?
Well, I don't have a definitive one, but I am. What's is it? I like the Santa Claus, the Tim Allen film. I don't care if it's a good film or not, but I like that. But anyway,
I was like, I was in my joke. I was in my head joking about to actually say when you said, "Oh, what's your definitive Santa?" I was as a joke going to say Tim Allen.
It's not a joke. It's not a joke. But the reason why. The reason why this isn't definitive to me is because it's not. This is like this is like a pulp hero, with a little bit of like cosmic sci-fi chucked in, and it's not like Santa Claus. Like the reason why I said my definitive story would be like a Lord of the Rings epic type thing is because I want like fantasy, like adventure. Like well, not adventure, but it has to be like Tolkien-esque. I don't know. This is like a very modern. This is just like a superhero thing. Like I don't. That's so I think that puts me off. As much as I love superheroes, I don't think pairing it with this stuff. It just seems a bit wrong.
You see, I'm sort of I'm more in the lines of I don't see it. I see it as superhero in the way that good Thor is a superhero stuff, where you can rope it into that, but really it is just sort of a more sci-fi centric version of mythology. And I'm all about that stuff. I love I love all that big Kirby cosmic sci-fi mythology stuff, and this is very much got that sort of like Kirby sensibility and stuff like that. I was even like whenever I met Grant, I was even asking him about it. It was like, I love how you do Santa. It's so Kirby and stuff like that. He's like, well, yeah, it's exactly Kirby. Like, when people say his dialogue not great, but like I love the dialogue, and it's just so succinct and matter of fact, and just sort of like bang bang bang, and like you can definitely tell like Grant is just sort of channeling the Kirby sort of like aesthetic in terms of his not even aesthetic the Kirby spirit or feel in his writing and in his sort of forming of the mythos in that. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's totally fair, and I do really like this. If this isn't your definitive Santa, it's certainly my definitive Santa now, and it all really comes down to the one moment where Krampus is taking Jonas off into the sky and everything. He's like, naughty children deserve to be boiled and stewed or whatever. And Klaus just jumps onto the sleigh with a sword and he says, I say this, there are no naughty children. It's like, that's the moment right there. That to me is the best Santa Claus line I've ever read or seen in anything.
And it's also like
nothing boils down the idea of the character more than that, in my opinion. I absolutely adored that moment.
And then like the follow up to that is like Klaus Krampus saying, "Oh, they must be punished," and Klaus just punish. Let me judge the terrible sins this child's committed, and name just one that is worthy of a demon's wrath.
Mm-hmm.
This boy told lies. There was pride and greed and gratitude, and you'll burn as easily as the rest. Oh, such wickedness! I'll give you this beast. You've made beast. You've made me want to laugh for the first time in many years. Do you know what else is funny? There are no fire. Yeah, your fires don't burn up here. And then just ho, ho, ho.
Mm-hmm.
Like oh, God.
Oh my God, you didn't even notice that. What?
Yeah, is him laughing as, like, the ho, ho, ho is not just something he says. Is him just laughing his ass off as he decapitates this dude. I'm like, nope, that's awesome. In every conceivable way.
Yeah.
And then, like,
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like Santa's really hard, I think, to mess up. As long as you've got, like, a certain spirit towards it. And I feel like this is the I feel like while the aesthetics and the mythology are all retooled to fit that sort of, like, that sci-fi epic fantasy mold, the very core of the character at the end of the day is peace and goodwill to all men.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I feel like it's fair. Like, as long as a interpretation of Santa has that at its core, it is a valid interpretation of Santa.
Okay. Well, does anyone have anything else they really want to bring up? Because I'm actually really comfortable just leaving this there if we're good with that.
I do have one thing. So, like, when we were mentioning that, we were talking about how this is basically what if Santa Claus was Superman at the end of the day. And I love that it ends, the final shot of it is straight out of Richard Donner's Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, comics don't do subtle, but oh God, it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
I did have one thing that, like, first time I read this, I wasn't, like, I like the idea of, like, how they incorporate coal into this mythos. Like, Krampus is being kept at bay by, like, prison of coal. And so there was one thing that I was, like, in my head, and I don't know, I think this is, like, I would like to see Morrison do something with this, because this was, like, an idea that I was, like, forming in my head as I was reading this for the first time. I was like, oh, so Krampus is kept at bay by coal, and Santa believes that there are no naughty children. But Santa leaves coal for naughty children. And so my sort of thing is,
protection.
Klaus leaves coal with children who would be perceived as naughty as the ultimate gift, as a form of protection from Krampus.
I really like that idea. That's cool.
You know? And so it's Santa saying, is like, look, even though you've been a little shit, you don't deserve to get eaten by a giant bugman goat monster.
You know, like, the thing that's... I want to make sure to mention one thing. I got to find the page now I'm thinking about it. So there's the page where Krampus walks into the hall and there's the king there and everything, right? And it's really cool to look at because, or am I a couple pages behind?
You do know that if this ever gets made into a movie, Andy Serkis is playing Krampus.
Yes. Okay. So it's in issue 6. So Krampus walks into the hall, and I really want to give some credit to Dan Mora, because I don't think Grant Morrison would have necessarily thought of this. I want to really pay attention to Krampus's feet. You got one hoofed foot and one clawed foot that kind of, like, drags behind. I'm going to do a Google search real quick here, because I think this is actually really neat.
I noticed that the foot was, like, crooked, like the ankle, like he was dragging his ankle behind him or something, but didn't notice that. I don't know how I didn't, because they're, like, right next to each other, but I didn't notice that one was clawed and one was hoofed.
Yeah, there's that, but, like, if you
I guess you could say that. I guess you could say that that reveal behoofed me.
There's this old image of Krampus stuffing children in his sack. It's slowly loading. Wha-bam!
Oh,
Wow.
I think that's just a really, really cool detail that got snuck in there, and I wanted to make sure I printed.
He's got maybe like the reason his foot is like maybe he was like chained as well, and so like maybe his foot is crooked because he had to like dislocate the foot to get through.
I'm not sure if the chains are relevant to him or if they're relevant to the children. Also, like he's of course got this sack that he's shoving the kid in and stuff. It's all just really cool detail.
The little girl seems pretty content. She's just sitting there with the apples.
Yeah, I mean, she was fine. It's her brother getting taken away. Stop screen sharing. Okay. So I want to make sure that happened. I love the way Dan Mora draws Krampus. It's utterly terrifying. Just absolutely fantastic work. Okay.
One of those artists, like, I'm probably going to wind up sort of following his career going forward for definite.
Yeah, I can see that.
Go-Go Power Rangers artist at the moment, I think.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and that's very good. His art's very good in that as well. But I think this is sort of like the apex of it at the moment. But yeah.
The only other thing I wanted to say is, like, I meant to bring this up when we were talking about the beginning of the book, but I really like how Santa Claus fights people. So, like, he takes out the guards by drenching them in snow, and then, like, later on in the next chapter, he takes out the big bad guard by, like, knocking him into a pile of snow and building a snowman around him. I really like the idea that that's how Santa Claus fights people. It's really too good for me.
It's all fun and games, Ian, until we realize that man died of hypothermia shortly after.
Well, he was mean. So therefore, bad people deserve to die. Okay. Oh, man. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Comic Book Club. Everyone, thank you very much for watching. Until next time, we'll be reading some books. I'll have a voting video up in the next few days. Bye.